Well, I gave you love, you know it. So when did you outgrow it and decide that you would find another man? Yeah. Well, you've been out there shaking and tell the boys chasing. When you get home, you think I'll be the bigger man. Yeah. 'Cause I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something other than you. Hey. Well, I know your reputation is just in my heart racing. You think I will always be the fool. Well, I've run out of patience for this sticky situation. You won't find me crying now or through, yeah. I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something other than you. You know it's sad to say, but every day I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something other than you. Not too proud to beg. I can give you some respect. 'Cause the junior home is never gonna change, yeah. You didn't have to do what you did, but I think you would end it like this. The love I got is better than what you gave, yeah. And I've got girls of mine waiting for these arms of mine. Listen up to what I say. I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something other than you. You know it's sad to say, but every day I've been thinking about something. I've been thinking about something other than you. Hey, to the bridge, y'all. I don't know, but it's ain't in love. Every day. I try to do it right through the lonely nights, but I'm done getting played. Come on, yeah. I'm not gonna make that same mistake. That's right. Whoa. Say it, play it one time. You've been out there fooling, but I'm not thinking about you. I've been getting the love that moves me. You've been getting around. You've been out there fooling, but I'm not thinking about you. I've been getting the love that moves me. You've been getting around. Yeah. You've been out there fooling, but I'm not thinking about you. I've been getting the love that moves me. You've been getting around. Yeah, baby.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So you're, of course, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Hanson,
That's right.
and that's super exciting. So I'd love to know when you guys were, coming up, and it kind of seemed like everything was getting really like big around the single Mbop, which you're going to play next for us. Yeah. What was one moment in particular that really stood out to you that kind of made you feel like, okay, Hanson is going to be like, this is real now?
Well, I mean, obviously it was real that we were a band doing our thing a long time before that. I mean, part of the reason of celebrating 25 versus 20, which is 20 years since that first record, is it's really, all along the way to get to that first record breaking. We did what bands do. You go out there and you build a fan base. And I think the kind of aha moment that you were going from the garage to, wow, like we're going to have fans in like all over the world. This is a possibility.
Or just the local shows that, you're like, oh, well, we've got some pretty intense, awesome kind of local fan stuff going on to we're in New
big
Jersey
leagues.
for something, for example.
Yeah, well, I mean, we went to a promo. We were the first major TV performance we did was going to be for David Letterman in '97, and we were rehearsing. Actually, this tells you a little bit something about our band. And we were rehearsing, and it was like, this is a big deal, about to do the big show. And
It's gonna be on
we were
TV.
told by our radio promo, well, actually, we set up an acoustic performance for you guys to do at a mall. We're like, acoustic performance at a mall? We got David Letterman tomorrow. What are you talking about?
Why
Like,
in
well,
the world did you do that?
You really need to do this. It's for the big, big radio station. We're like, so we begrudgingly kind of went, okay, well, I guess this is our life now. We got to go do radio promo. And
Hang on, but for one
You know.
other point about that, we literally were arguing with him like, no. David Letterman is tomorrow.
We're not.
We have rehearsal. We're not leaving.
And he said, look, you got to go. So we went, and when we pulled up to this mall, it was Paramus Park, New Jersey, Paramus Park Mall, and we pulled up, and it was almost the end of the night. It was truly like mall hours-wise. It was like, this is over. Like, why is, and like the night's done, and the mall is slammed. And we're like, man, we jokingly like, there's a sale at Macy's, I guess. Something's going on. And we pull up there, and when we walk to the back door of the mall, there was like 3 lonely mall security guys, and they looked like a T-Rex had just walked into the mall. Like their eyes were like, what's going on?
Kind of pale, wide-eyed, like, hey,
And we're
so you're here.
Yeah, what's happening? We're thinking to ourselves, what is happening here? And we walked to the slow, like long, back, mall, hallway up to the little windows that had little, plexiglass through the glass windows, and the entire mall was just a sea of humanity, an absolute sea of humanity. I mean, people literally hanging on like potted trees, and we thought to ourselves,
Yeah, it looked
what?
kind of like a Dr. Seuss drawing, like some of that, like.
It was nuts, and you could feel the physical humanity, like the energy in the air.
The tension.
And in that moment, I mean, once they said we were going to come out, I mean, they literally set up a stage that was about the size of Zach's rug over there, and we were supposed to do these songs, and they had a PA on a stick, and it was just the collision of that reality that like, months before that we'd been working on a song that we wrote in our garage, and a record we were excited about, but the switch had that song had begun to take off so much that this was what was happening, and so
it was actually right about this time 20 years ago.
yeah, it was almost
in
exactly
March.
this time.
Yeah, almost exactly.
And so yeah, then we wove our way through this sea of a crowd to get to this tiny stage. Couldn't hear anything we were doing in that room because the sound was like walking in front of a jet engine. You would never believe the power of young females to create volume. And it was an amazing moment. I remember getting out of there. Zach just about didn't make it. He fell into the crowd, and our tour manager at the time, to get out off that stage after playing 3 songs to 8,000 people packed into a mall, was like he fell, and it was a full-on classic rock and roll like trapped in the crowd. And
Where's Zach?
yeah, I had my T-shirt got ripped, and the whole back of it was pulled off, and Zach was fell underneath and got swooped up. At 11 years old, you could swoop him. You can't swoop Zach up anymore.
Definitely not. He might swoop you, but
Yeah.
that's a whole other thing.
So anyway, I mean I think that moment, I remember being in the car and like being in the van afterwards and just sitting there just taking in what had just happened. It wasn't overnight at all, but in that moment it felt like an overnight switch.
Well, it was an overnight. There was a certain degree of overnight switch. The level of it was, and I just remember sitting in the van not being able to hear anything. But that's a whole other.
Yeah. Well, I remember it was slightly raining and the windows were kind of like dripping water. I just remember looking out the window thinking, okay, here we are.
Yeah. I remember that time really well, just because I was actually around Zach's age. And to what extent now do you guys get stopped even? And
Get stalked or stopped?
well, maybe both, but I said
Both, actually.
I said stopped, like stopped in the street. But
We get stopped. I mean,
do you have any stalker stories? We're all
we have
ears.
we have some stalker stories. I mean,
Yeah,
we
which are
do
not
get
good
stopped.
ones.
I mean, obviously, that record and that was a level of breakout that very few people ever get. And so that was and the long hair, and it was like you really were so recognizable. But I mean, we get recognized all the time, and 6 years, 20 years later, 6 albums, 20 years later. I mean, it's amazing. Music is powerful. We've been so blessed, and to get to go all over the world, and sometimes it does stop you. I remember one time it was on our 3rd record after we started our label and launched that, and our goals were more like, look, we set our goals like we want to be a #1 independent band. We can't control whether we can have a #1 smash hit all over the world as a small label. When we left our major label, got out of that craziness of label mergers and things falling apart, and we set a goal of being a #1 independent band, and we did it with that song Penny and Me. And we were outside of Milan, visiting. In a random day, we went up to this beautiful lake outside of Milan. And I remember being in this little tiny square, and there was the record that we'd put out on our own label for sale in this tiny little town in Italy. And this whole crowd of, young people, recognizing us there. And I just remember thinking how...
No, literally church let out.
Yeah, church let out. Was like, oh, God, go to the left, go to the left.
And it was like, it was a throng of people. And they were like...
I think that was, however many years ago that was. But music is powerful, and especially more than ever, like when we first broke out, we got the end of the record industry as it was. And it was still like you got that splash of like there was a system and there was record labels and radio. But I think we've been able to keep such a strong connection with fans because we were also kind of the first internet generation, and a lot of those people, like there's such a direct connect.
Sure.
And it still blows me away that that you
blows me
can
away every
walk down and people are like, I know who you are. Sometimes people look at you like, great question. I think I know you. They're like,
Who are you?
I'm not going to help you here.
Yeah. Are you who I think you are?
Like, who do you think I am? It's like,
Yes,
Gary
you're right.
Busey. Yes, I am Gary
Edward
Busey.
Snowden.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Gary Busey. Of course, I'm also just realizing, because this is just free-flowing, I need to actually sing my vocal from the B3 on this next song. So session-wise, I totally forgot when we were sound checking.
Yeah.
If
Oh.
anybody wants to, if on Mbop, if we're going to do Mbop.
Oh, are we
FYI.
gonna? Yeah, that would be.
If we're going to do that next.
That would be a slight issue. 'cause
Yeah,
there's
so-
no vocal mic over there.
Yeah, so we might want to play a new song and then see if somebody can set up a mic while we're going. But
Okay.
unless
Cool.
we want to play Mbop without the B3,
Yeah.
But
We haven't done
please
that
hold.
in a long time.
I just thought, hey, we're in session. I'm just gonna.
why
go
don't we
straight up.
play "I Was Born" and then we can do Mbop last? That
Yeah,
way
what do you
there's
guys
a
think
little
about
bit
that?
of
Let's do a curveball.
Okay.
Sounds like that's
Yeah.
going to happen.
This is live, guys.
Right.
This is the internet.
All right.
Everybody's watching. So we'll do it in reverse, I guess. Maybe get a mic set up. Yeah.
Save the best for last.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. So this year we've got this greatest hits going to come out later. It's a proper comprehensive greatest hits of like songs from all the different records, and we are putting out. There's going to be one new song on there, and it's a song called "I Was Born." It's actually one of those songs that we first sat down to write it, and it was like everyone was really excited, but didn't necessarily think it was going to be a song that we would do, because we actually wrote it with a friend, David Ryan Harris, who's brilliant, and
Skylar Stone.
Skylar Stone Street, and it was like, wow, I love this song. It's just absolutely pure optimism, and over as it kind of sat around, we're like, who's going to do this? Some other, so we should pitch this song or somebody, and it just didn't go anywhere. Interestingly, funny, kind of Mbop was similarly that way, because we wrote it, and for a couple years it was like, there's that Mbop song, and then it became a song. And,
Yeah, exactly.
but this one, it's pretty fun. It's message-wise, it feels like there's a lot of things you say in songs you can never encapsulate it all in a song. It's just impossible. But this one definitely, it kind of touches on the spirit, like that pure idea of, people talk about, I want to be a fireman when I grow up. Well, I think a lot of kids, it's like, it's not even I want to be a fireman. It's I want to be me, I want to be me. I want to become, and you don't necessarily even know what that is. I might be something that's never been before. And that's the whole kind of idea behind this tune is kind of pure, unadulterated, like, this is, I'm a snowflake. I'm an individual snowflake.
Yeah, but without the snowflake part.
Sorry, I just had to add that.
Yeah.
voice.
Yeah. How about a kernel of dirt?
Yeah. I just want you to talk about talking to LaFonda on the internet, talking to hot chicks all day on the internet.
You guys
And
are
just
just
think-
mad because I've been talking to chicks on the internet all day.
Cool.
Napoleon Dynamite.
Well, we'd love to hear it whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a song called "I Was Born."
1, 2. I was born to do something no one's ever done. No one's ever done before. I was born to go somewhere no one's ever gone. No one's ever gone before. Oh.
was awesome. Hey, so you guys have you have a jam and beer festival coming up.
Yeah.
All right, and that's kind of based around the beer that you founded
Yes.
recently.
So,
Well, and many
Hops.
other beers,
Yeah,
thankfully.
exactly.
Yeah. Will you tell us a little bit about that?
well, so it's called Hop Jam. It's in May. It's on the 21st. It's in Tulsa. And Hop Jam is really kind of this perfect combination of Hanson world. So obviously we're
Is there a world
we're-
called Hanson?
Yeah, well there kind of is in my head. There's this combination of obviously we love music and love the idea of building a festival for music, and so there's this big free concert, and there's a lot of support of local music too. In addition to national bands, like we have a stage that's all local music, so bringing attention to local bands. And we got our start at local festivals in Oklahoma, arts festivals. So we kind of feel like that's kind of something where we're passing that torch. And then there's a huge beer garden, which is 3 blocks of brewers and all these beers. I think this year there'll be nearly 70 brewers, and that's a lot of beer. If you haven't been, that's a lot of beer.
It's a lot of beer.
And so that's there's the big beer festival, and then this is really our neighborhood. We've always been guys from Tulsa, from Oklahoma.
Yeah, it looks like you guys have some really good. You have a really good setup.
Yeah.
Got,
right,
Magnetic Zeros.
Oh,
Rather,
yeah.
Edward Sharp and Magnetic Zeros. Albert Hammond Jr. Ex Ambassadors.
Yeah.
Do you guys book them? Like to what extent do you book those artists or suggest those artists, or
Yeah.
do you have people you work
well,
with? To do that?
It's our festival. I mean, it's kind of like I said, it's the perfect combination of all things Hanson. I mean, this year we're actually going to headline the festival, so we're taking the stage again. But like you said, there's been lots of great bands who played. The Congos are playing this year. It's
Mayor Hawthorne's going to be playing this year as well.
it's kind of this. This will really be the kickoff for us of the world tour. It happens right before we go to Europe and really start the dates, and so it brings everything full circle because 25 years ago we started like a block from where the beer festival takes place, and so we get to play a stage again, and we feel like that's kind of a great way to start this sort of celebration.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you guys feel like you have everything in line to go back in time and play MMMBop?
We don't yet have Taylor's microphone, and since
Oh.
he usually sings the melody,
Well, then,
I mean, I could sing it. You have so many relationships. It would be different.
why don't we keep talking?
Yes.
As long as you're cool with it.
Yeah. Well, we are cool.
What's your relationship like to the songs that you first wrote, and then I mean, I imagine that you get a lot of people asking you to play play
Sure.
MMMBop.
It's interesting. I think a lot of people expect us to hate MMMBop. They're like, "Oh, you must hate it. You've played it so many times," and it's just not really the case. I think the thing that we do hate is when people just misunderstand MMMBop. And there's so much of that. I think maybe it's because
Well,
a
what's an
lot.
example of someone misunderstanding? I think
Well,
I read something that came out on the internet recently that like it went viral.
Well, I mean, I think people think we hate MMMBop, and they don't realize how impactful I think that song was for us. So we started our band in '92, and by the time we wrote MMMBop, a few years later, it was already a song that was about the fact that choosing to be musicians was a hard thing in life. Even when I was like 8 years old, we were dealing with this fact that being a band meant that you missed out on certain things, and people that should understand didn't quite get you. Your neighbor's like, "Hey, come over, it's Saturday, let's play Nintendo," and you're like, "Well, I got a gig, I got to go do this thing," and they're like, "That's weird." And
Well,
you're
I
like,
mean, being the youngest in the trio, was that something that at any point you felt like you wanted to do? Like, man, I just wish I could go to my friend's house, play Nintendo.
No, we didn't, because I mean that. But what MMMBop is about is when you listen to the lyrics of MMMBop, it talks about how just very few things in life will last. And for us, we were choosing music. We were choosing this passion we had, even at a very young age. And so now, when you're 25 years from starting, and 23 years from when we wrote that song, 20 years from when it came out, what it means about making choices, making hard choices, and what it means about the fact that very few things will last is like truer and truer and truer every time you play it.
Yeah.
And
For
so
the ones who really care, for lack of a better word.
well, I mean, anything can you can get bored of playing it because you overdo it. I mean, if I sat here and watched The Three Amigos 100 times in a row, even though it's like one of my favorite movies ever, I'd be like, let's take a break. But there's never this sense of disdain or misrepresentation or I wish I could change it. It's simply everything in moderation is a beautiful thing. And Bop has been, I think for us, we feel like we've been able to do that with that song. So
Looks like it's working
moderation.
now. Yeah, and
Yeah.
we have another mic.
Awesome.
And also, I mean,
Yeah.
it's really the story continues, and we are proud of. It's like a great example, Zach, was that we were talking earlier with somebody about it, and it's you're proud of the periods. They're just they're chapters. You know, you're proud of the first chapter, but you're also are proud of the third and the fourth and the fifth so you want to just connect them.
Yeah.
So like a
Yeah.
tapestry.
Well, you guys do have many chapters.
We do. We are.
Yes.
Also,
chapters.
many personalities, which
Yeah.
is a whole other problem.
we're actually working on
All good.
Hanson's War and Peace. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Well, I saw a lot of thumbs up before, so I'm taking that to mean that we have the microphone situation
Yes,
figured out.
We are good.
I
Oh,
think we're
great.
good to rumble.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's do it.
This is Bop 20 years later.
Yeah, exactly.
That's you.
That's me?
Yeah, that's you.
Okay, I want to make sure. Okay. Here we go.
You've so many relationships in this life, only one you realize. You go through all the pain and strife, and you turn your back, you're gone so fast. Oh yeah.
Thank you.
Hasn't aged a day. That was great, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being here. And yeah, I guess we'll just do a quick wrap up of where we can see you live next. I believe you are playing at South by. Did that already pass?
Yeah, so we played a showcase at South by last night. We got another show tomorrow at the Whole Foods top deck stage or whatever that is, and then we'll be.
But that'll be a short show. The next,
sure,
as
yeah,
far as Austin
we're
and all
on
those kind of
tour.
things.
We're on tour starting in the U.S. in the fall and in Europe in June. So if you check Hanson.net, there's all the dates. Basically, we're kind of going all over the place. We're about to announce more dates that'll be in Australia and New Zealand, and then a little later we'll announce some South American dates. And so Europe, U.S., Canada, South America, Australia, we're kind of going everywhere. So we get close enough that there's really no excuse not to come see us.
No, there isn't. Thank you guys so much again, and thanks for indulging us.
No worries.
And yeah, we're glad we got the mic situation figured out. And please come back, visit us anytime.
Thanks so much.